Hello guys, in here for some reason I haven't really been getting comments unless I'm on YouTube and they pop up right when I'm watching something or something. So if I don't comment to any of your comments, which I try to do every time I get comments, probably because I didn't see them and they don't show up in my notifications anymore for some reason. I don't know why, but I did check my comments because I realized I missed a whole lot of comments on my political videos with very horrible things, not necessarily like very uneducated points, like how it's not Trump's fault coronavirus is running rampant, even though Trump defied science, promoted drugs that weren't tested, lied, did not suggest wearing masks, literally held rallies and told people not to wear masks or exercise precautions. It is Trump's fault. Trump got rid of the pandemic response team in 2018. Obama left the next president, which he didn't know was going to be Trump at the time, things to do in a pandemic guidebook that Trump did not read, just like the Bible. And another comment is, why don't Democrats evolve capitalism? Because the way we want to evolve the system that benefits people is a social democracy, so we might as well just call it a social democracy and not capitalism. The way we want to evolve it is because capitalism has a certain way for the economy that we don't want. So evolving capitalism will just make it more social democracy, and we prefer to call it what it is, which is a social democracy, not capitalism. We don't like the way capitalism kind of benefits the rich. Capitalism is mainly just for the rich and people with power. And yes, it can benefit people of lower income, but it doesn't. There's a lot of things wrong with capitalism. So what we want to do in a social democracy, we give the workers the means of production and power. And that way, corporations can't exploit people because the people have the power now. And it also demands a living wage. If you cannot pay people just the amount to live, then you shouldn't be in business. You have no business being in business. So what we're doing is we're seeing socialism and we're like, okay, instead of the government having power, why don't we give it to the workers, which is social democracy? Because the Socialistic Party in Asia was actually for the workers. Socialism, the socialistic movement actually ended child laborment that was under industrial capitalism at the time during the Industrial Revolution. Socialism kind of ended that, at least in Europe and Asia. In America, I think we just had common sense, to be honest. Not really. We didn't really have common sense. But it kind of pushed forward. And so we're kind of seeing like all these countries like Germany and Japan and the Netherlands and Sweden and all of that. And they're benefiting off of some socialistic ideas. Democrats aren't necessarily going for what is it, socialist or capitalist. It's what will help. And that's like the main goal. And we see all these countries with a one-payer system and everyone's covered. And they're dealing with pandemics way better than America, way better than all of this. Their medical industries are huge. Sweden is the hot spot for new medical research. Sweden has like their medical drugs are like the best you have out of the, like in the US you get like ibuprofen and it has all these negative effects. In Sweden they mix natural and it works. And so I mean, I remember seeing an article on that, and it's kind of like capitalism doesn't really let you evolve unless the rich let you evolve. And in order to make capitalism great, you would have to level out the playing field for the rich and the poor, and the rich don't want to do that. And since the rich kind of own capitalism, they're not going to evolve it into what needs to be beneficial for everybody. So a social democracy doesn't allow the minority 1% with all the money to exploit people and to not pay them fair wages. Amazon rather would get rid of workers than to pay them an extra $2 during the pandemic. That does not make sense. Amazon is a multi-millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. I don't even know. Amazon just made a new record for how much money you can own. And they would rather get rid of workers than pay them $2 more. That is a big problem. We don't want that anymore. Also, a social democracy will take money from other places that it doesn't necessarily need to be and bring it back to the public. Like, we pay the police a lot of money for stuff they get for free. They have a deal with the military because Trump re-rolled the protections, which gives police access to any free tanks, armored vehicles, assault weapons, any of that for free to any police station that asks for it. So why are we paying them money for these things that they get for free? And why do they need armored vehicles again? If it's a situation that involves armored vehicles and militia, I don't necessarily think the police need to be involved. I think that's something more like the SWAT and the FBI, someone who, I don't know, goes through more training than an average police officer and, I don't know, kind of studied how to dissolve situations. Police are very, 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 very not good at de-escalating situations. They are not. 80% of the homeless population would rather deal with their problems than call a police officer. Majority of people, as a matter of fact, would rather solve their problem themselves, i.e. with a weapon or a gun or something to protect themselves, than call a police officer, because a police officer, yes, they get the job done, but it's not in a real humane way. And depending on where you live, the police just suck. So we can't evolve a system where the people that run it don't want to evolve it. So we have to replace it with something to where that can revolve. Socialism is very flexible. So something came up. It was an ad that started playing when I was talking. So socialism is very flexible. Unlike communism, which two different systems, you cannot use communism and socialism irreplaceably. They are two different systems. Communism is way more fascist, and in order to have communism, you have to have a controlling government. You have to have totalitarianism. Socialism, you can have a free government. You can have everything America has. It's just a different way of going about what America has. And I think since we see all these countries that benefit, and even research that has shown that a Medicare for all system would actually benefit the economy. And so I'll try to find those articles again and put them in the description. But it's very interesting. This generation doesn't care what it's named anymore. They just care that if it helps. And you can't really say it doesn't help if you've never experienced it. And each country, you can't compare Britain and the United States. Both democracies, different ways of dealing with democracies, just like you cannot compare Venezuela to the Netherlands. Both claim, well, Venezuela claims more communist, but you can't really have a communist state. So they are socialism, but they claim to be communism. They're not the same country. The Netherlands and Venezuela aren't. Both socialistic programs, two very different outcomes. People always blame the economic status of a country instead of the people running it. I think any economic system that I know of, I don't know all of them maybe, would work if you had a good government that actually cared. I don't want socialism if Trump's president because he's going to turn it into communism. And that's not what I want. I mean, is there some things about communism that could work? Maybe, but I don't want to go the full 100 miles of communism. You know, not yet. But socialism is very flexible and it's very for the people. And even if the government has to run everything, I am fine with that because either way, someone's going to run it and they can both be easily corrupt. So I'm going to vote for the government I want, like Joe Biden. And if Joe Biden wants to control it, I trust him, just like Trump supporters trust Trump with the country. Even though you can't run a country like it's a business, it's not a way to make money. Oh my God. Capitalism. So I think it's very important, especially because everyone has a different definition of socialism and capitalism and communism and fascism, even though, yes, there is dictionary definitions. Everyone kind of, it's like the Bible. You're reading the same thing. You just have different interpretations of what that means, and you have different points of view. Same with economic things. Like, every time I get in a political argument, not all Republicans hate gays. And I'm like, then why do they elect people that do? In order to become governor, mayor, president, okay, not president, in order to become governor, mayor, you have to get majority vote. And the fact that you are attacking the LGBTQ community and making laws that oppress them, the majority of the Republican voters voted for you and you're oppressing the LGBTQ. You kind of see how we think majority of Republicans are anti-LGBTQ because they're voting for people either A, that go against their morals, which is wrong because then they're just voting for Republicans because they're a Republican, or B, majority of Republicans feel that way, and that's even worse. You either have the majority believing in what they're saying, or you have majority of people that aren't voting for their beliefs. And that's a problem. That's not okay. So I think the Republican Party it's over. If what Trump said, if the one thing he said was true and his son's going to run in 2024, the Republican Party is done. We ain't voting for Trump in 2020. Trump, according to the economics, only have a 7% chance of winning. I watched this YouTube channel, and they literally do political content, which I like. And they literally went to the 38, whatever that website is. And Trump's numbers are so bad. Everybody is waking up. Every time the country goes through a recession, majority of the time it's been with a Republican candidate, and right afterwards we elected a Democrat to clean up the mess. Democrats are basically Republicans made. Every time people are stupid and then they vote Republican and then the country goes to a horrible mess, Democrats have to clean it up. Now, not all Republicans are bad, okay? I'm more of a traditional Republican if we went back to Ronald Reagan because he actually cared about the environment. He cared about illegal immigrants. He cared about everything Democrats care about now, but now Republicans don't. And if they do, they ain't very extreme, which isn't a bad thing. I feel like I'm an extreme Democrat, even though every time I say that and then we get into a political argument, I find myself taking the Republican side, like the death penalty. The one Democrat you'll see that's for the death penalty. Actually, that's changing. I don't know. The more arguments I get in about the death penalty, the more I kind of learn, like, maybe we shouldn't. But yeah, that's kind of like my reasoning for why Democrats don't really go into capitalism. I mean, other Democrats might say have a different story. Every Democrat has a different reason for why they believe in something. And so, coming from me, a Democrat, that's my reasoning for why we don't really evolve capitalism. And we've tried to evolve, and people find a way to ruin it. Now, yeah, you can find a way to ruin other systems like democratic socialist states, but it's harder, I would say. it's easier for the government to become more corrupt, but it's harder for the rich to kind of be oppressive, I would say. But I don't really care what economic status we have as long as it is at least more fair. Of course, there's the saying that you can't fix everything 100%. There's always going to be problems, but I think the extremity of the problems can be lowered, especially in America. So, yeah, but to be fair, I am a Californian hippie, so talking about socialism, not my first rodeo. Bye.